Hello and welcome to this week's CodeFreeks Podcast, the official podcast for Cheat Code Central. We are your hosts, Matt
and Josh.
You can find us on Cheat Code Central all the time, every time, whatever time. But specifically this week, you're probably not going to find us much on Cheat Code Central because we're too busy playing The Last of Us. Sorry for those of you that still have to wait a week, but it's good.
No, it's not good. It's
True.
Amazing.
True.
Amazing game.
Amazing to bring up a horrible joke from like 17 years ago.
Amazing. Yes. No, it's excellent. Well, you reviewed it.
True. So the great things about The Last of Us is that it doesn't. It treats you like an adult, which is probably the main point behind my entire review. And you handled the video review part of it. But it really is it's rated M, obviously, but I mean we've experienced in this generation that mature rated games don't necessarily mean that the right audiences are playing them.
Yes.
So I'm not going to name any names, Call of Duty, or anything like that. But with The Last of Us, it doesn't take into consideration that teenagers are probably going to play this game. It takes the fact that the protagonist is an older character. You know, he's in his late 40s, early 50s. Probably.
I would say.
It's probably fair.
He looks about 50.
Yeah, he definitely has.
He's got some.
He's got some age.
He's got some mileage.
Seasoned is what we call it. And so I don't want to spoil anything because obviously this is an experience that you have to have on your own. Don't look up any spoilers. Don't look up the ending. Don't look up anything about this game because if you do, you're gonna hate yourself. Like probably enough to kick yourself in the junk. And it's harsh, as you can imagine.
Not to mention physically.
It is possible.
It's possible.
I've seen it.
Physically uncomfortable.
To get in that, anyway.
Regardless, you want to do that.
Yeah.
So definitely don't look up any spoilers on The Last of Us. It is one of the best stories we've ever had the chance to play in a video game, and Naughty Dog has went even further past their Uncharted series in terms of delivery of a story that's just truly amazing. So don't screw yourself and watch some video that's going to tell you some storyline stuff that you could find out in the course of the game that is just going to blow your mind because that's stupid.
Right, and that too is another point about this, is that Naughty Dog paid such close attention to developing these characters to the point where you can tell more about the character just by playing the game than being told about a character. Like, there was some stuff that they talked about with Joel's character and stuff like that, just the flow of his storyline throughout the whole game, that you're not necessarily going to pick up on maybe the first time, but the second time you play it, you're going to be like, so I get that now. I understand that now. And I think, personally, that is one of the best things about this game and Naughty Dog as a developer, is they pay attention to the small stuff. And that small stuff makes the experience that much better. Like the shooting. Like Joel being able to shoot.
Right, yeah, that's actually what I was going to say something about. I've seen a lot, read all the reviews, or a lot of the reviews on Last of Us, and there were a couple out there that kind of criticized the shooting and the shooting mechanics and Joel's inability to be an excellent marksman all the time. Well, he's not.
Right.
He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't somebody who shot a gun all the time. He was a guy caught up in a situation. Or he's a guy who's caught up in a situation where he's got to shoot a gun. Mm-hmm. And he has learned everything he's done. He's learned along the way.
Just like his brutality in the melee attacks. You know, like some of the most brutal stuff that I've seen not in a video game because we've had Manhunter and stuff like that, where the gore and the graphic nature
but the
of it
representation.
is so, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that the melee attacks and the gunplay in this game really comment on the fact that, you know, you could have the Call of Duty experience. You could have oh, look, I'm perfect. But with this, if you were in a real situation like this, you're not going to aim perfect. You know, in combat situations, you don't always aim perfect. Nope. You know, and it's not easy. Well, no, it's not fun.
It's scary.
It's very scary. But I mean, I think that adds a layer to gaming that we haven't exactly experienced, truthfully. You know? I mean, the reticles where you have to move the knob around and stuff like that, whatever. But the fact that from instant aiming, that Joel is just like, okay, there it is. Okay, am I going to shoot? And then you think that's going to hit, and it misses, and it alerts the enemy, and you're like, damn! That's it. You know, because then you got everybody on you, you know, and then you have to take them out.
And it adds that layer of realism, too, that Naughty Dog was obviously striving for. I mean, Joel's old. Yeah. He's not an old man. Obviously, he's pretty spry for his age.
He really is, considering, you know, if our timeline's right.
I'm telling you,
I can't
as
move
many
like
beatings
him.
as that man took, he shouldn't have been able to get back up from.
Can't even walk to the ice machine.
He is old, or older, and he doesn't have training. So, all of those things taken into account, Joel is exactly the character that he should be in the game. So, if you read a review that says, "Oh, the shooting sucks," it's supposed to suck. It adds a layer of believability to the character. That's all I'll say about it. I can't say anything else without giving anything away. But
see, those things are actually carried over into the multiplayer experience too. You know, and I think that, like, we've heard a lot of people talking about the multiplayer experience being just different, and it is. You know, it is very different. You know, and I'm not going to talk about a lot of it either, but that realism and the idea behind teamwork and the idea behind, you know, survival, which is the main point behind The Last of Us, is, you know, this world is decimated and you're trying to survive and you're trying to, you know, if you're a part of one of the factions, like the hunters that we saw in many of the gameplay and stuff like that, you're going to want to have teammates that you can rely on.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, it automatically sets that up for you and I and a couple of other people that we know to jump into a game and, you know, make sure that we're surviving, make sure that we're doing what we need to do.
Well, what else I love about the multiplayer on The Last of Us is that it's relevant to the game. It's relevant to the, not the storyline per se, but the environment that's created so effectively by Naughty Dog. And it's such an in-depth environment that the multiplayer fits into that very well. And it kind of shows you the backside. Like, you've got Joel and Ellie in this very story-focused experience within the game, but then there's also all this other stuff that's going on around, and the multiplayer kind of lets you dive into that and play meaningless characters.
Right, but I mean,
you've got that air of survival.
Do you remember, like, with Left 4 Dead, how, you know, these characters that we all developed our own stories with?
Right.
And stuff like that, you know, there was no stories for these characters. It was just what people made up, what people put together.
Right.
And I think that a lot of that has transferred into this multiplayer experience. I mean, you can create your character, you can do all this and that, and you can have your teammates and everything, and you can create like this mental image of what they're doing, you know, throughout the 12 weeks. Once you start the multiplayer, you'll know what I mean by that. But, you know, it's definitely one of those things that I'm really glad that I've gotten to experience it. I think everyone that has a PS3 needs to experience, and I would say that if you are one of the Xbox faithful and you want to attempt to see what some of the last gen stuff for the PS3 is, this is definitely a title to go with.
Yes, this is the one. This is a definitive game
for this generation.
Yeah, it's a culmination of all of the work and all of the figuring out trial and error that all of the developers have had over the course of the past 7-8 years, trying to figure out how to make these games as perfect as possible, and Naughty Dog has nailed it with The Last of Us. It's technically amazing. Mm-hmm. It's graphically stunning. The sound, the music of The Last of Us is amazing. To use the same word again to describe it, but I mean it's just amazing.
Yeah, because and I mean it's very rare that we have a game that comes out like that. I mean, on Cheat Code Central, we try to not just throw a 5 up in the air and see whatever game it lands on. And, I'm not saying anybody else does. But, when we give a game a 5, it is something that, a 5 out of 5. I need to make that clear, not a 5 out of 10. But when we give a game that score, it's because it has such a huge impact and it's so well refined at that moment in time. And I would actually love to see if this game got ported over to the upcoming PS4. Ports are hard.
Yeah.
No matter what they try to do. But, we're still very much...
want to see it.
I would love to see it.
I'd love to see that game with the powerhouse behind it that the PS4 is going to bring.
Right.
Or any next-gen console for that reason. But the PS4 and the Xbox One have such... There's high hopes for what we're going to be able to see in there. But this the PS3, Xbox 360 are still very viable, as we're going to find out next week at E3, and we'll be bringing everything here for you. But speaking of the Xbox and PS3, there are still some titles that are coming out this year. And speaking of potential upgrades for ported games. Do you have anything you want to share? Yeah, speaking of ports coming to this current generation of consoles, of course, most people have probably heard about Diablo 3 coming to the PS3.
Who hasn't?
Right.
I mean, just Diablo 3.
Well, yeah, obviously everyone's heard of Diablo and Diablo 3, or maybe not everyone, but if you
if you had a PC back in the 80s,
you played Diablo. But back in the 80s, on your
Linux 90 diskettes.
Oregon Trail. Anyways, Diablo 3 has already been confirmed for PS3. That's been out for quite some time, but recently it's been announced that it is also coming to the Xbox 360.
I call bollocks on that because we rented that on the site like months ago.
Right. Well,
trust us.
Yeah, you should just check us out. Yeah. But yeah, Diablo 3 coming to the Xbox 360. No date on that yet, but I would assume September 10th?
Yeah,
okay.
Or September 3rd. They sent that over. They didn't give you the notes.
Oh, okay. September 3rd for Xbox 360. And I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I mean, it's great on PC, but I think Diablo's more suited for a console now.
Now, if you were to say that a few years ago, some random Diablo fan would burst out of the ceiling and punch you in the face.
It's true.
But now I think that, the consoles have matured to the point where, especially with Diablo 3 and how well it plays, and then the idea behind playing with friends and stuff like that was so big on PC that, it's just something that seems more fitted for the way that the console generation is this time. And I honestly think that I remember some people complaining that the PC version of Diablo 3 felt too much like a console version.
Yeah, I remember hearing some of that too. And
I call bull on that because I played the hell out of that game and never once was like, I wish it was on my PS3. Now that I know, September can't get here any quicker,
Well, PS3 or Xbox 360, those of us who don't have the high-end gaming PCs, you'll have the ability to play. Oh, yeah, it's irrelevant because people have these PS3s and Xbox 360s and want to play Diablo 3, even if they can't play it on their little laptop. Now it's going to be available.
You know what? Send me an email and I will tell you the laptop to get. Or just wait.
For a console
release. But thankfully it's not coming out on the Wii U, you know.
Oh,
And I'm not saying that if you're, looking into buying the high-end Wii U or anything like that, because if you're going to buy a Wii U, that's obviously the one to go with because you get the bigger hard drive.
Right.
You get the standy things.
Excellent.
And you get Nintendo Land,
right.
which is excellent.
Really, that bigger hard drive's the reason.
Yeah, so just stick with that. But recent news broke that Nintendo was pulling all of the Wii U basics.
It's the $299.
That's the $299 one, the white one. Mm-hmm. The white one. Racist Nintendo. And so that news story was filtering around all over the place. And, companies like Walmart and stuff like that were actually pulling them off of the shelves, so that they would have just the black model.
Right.
Or the high-end model. That's the politically correct term, I guess. Blame Nintendo. It's not my fault.
Racism.
It's not my fault, Nintendo. But anyway, so they came out and they have recently said that the reason that they're removing Wii U basic models is a restocking issue. Now, I don't know if you're really aware of restocking, like how that works. You get a product in, you put that out on the shelf,
then you sell it.
Yeah, and then they send you more. You don't
take all of the products you have.
Off, send it back to the company, and then say, "Hey, we'd like some of those back. Can we have some?" So, I mean, it's interesting that this is happening a week before E3.
Yeah, I think they just want to do away. I mean, as far as I know, it was always Nintendo's intention to have a limited run of that basic model. It just didn't sell well. I don't think it sold well enough to get rid of them.
No, because everybody's like, hey, why would I not spend a little bit extra to get Nintendo Land and the bigger hard drive?
Exactly.
I mean, everybody that I know that picked one up was like, hey, that's the model I'm going to go for. The black model looks sleeker. It looks better. It's going to function better. It's going to do everything that I want it to do. I don't want the basic model.
Right.
The basic model was, I guess, designed for the overflow of them not having enough of the high-end model.
Yeah.
Sorry for you.
I don't.
But Walmart still has
the basic.
Some of those.
And
more.
They're all
and more. They're all there.
You can go buy one right now.
Yeah. But to kind of let you know, next week at E3, they're doing the little Nintendo Direct kind of thing. It's not really a showcase. They're not going to talk about anything. But to give you a preview, we've heard that they are announcing a new, wait for it, Super Smash Brothers.
Who would have thought?
I know. I would not have thought that at all.
No.
I never thought that would happen.
Well, I mean, it just breaks every tradition. Wait, no, it doesn't.
I know.
It's been on every Wii console since...
Every Nintendo
console, excuse me. That's since it came out.
Since the 64.
Yeah. And
so why
as
would
well
we
it
not?
should be. I mean, it's a great game series.
Well, it's also a flagship.
Yeah, it is.
Too. And this goes back to my tinfoil hat theory. Nintendo doesn't need third-party support. Period.
No.
They can come out and they can sell 50,000 consoles a week and be like, it's alright. And then announce Super Smash Brothers. And everyone's like, oh my god! I've got to go have that now!
Mario, Zelda, Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart.
Mario Kart, definitely.
All of those are requirements for a Nintendo console. Yeah. And if they make those...
Then the console will be fine.
It will be fine. They're not going to sink.
That and Nintendo is not stupid. I mean, the analysts are saying that Nintendo needs to start, putting some of their first party stuff on other platforms and stuff. And
right.
And I've talked about that before, and I've thought about that and how cool and interesting that could be, but Nintendo doesn't have to.
No, they don't.
I mean, even if they bow out of the console race, which I
still
don't see happening.
I don't see that happening.
But if they do, they still have the handheld market.
Exactly. And where was the 3DS?
Right.
When it first came out, everybody, they're like, oh, no,
and then,
Nintendo shot himself in the foot with the 3DS.
And then what happened? Mario Kart came out, and then there was that Kid Icarus game that came out, which reviewed bad, but, you know, it still came out. And now, Luigi's Mansion 2, you still can't find that damn game anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I like Luigi's Mansion. I want to play Luigi's Mansion. I can't go to the store and buy it because I get looked at, and they're like, no, sir, you can't have that. And I'm like, why? Because Nintendo didn't send us any. Then take all your white Wii U's and send them back so they will give us Luigi's Mansion. Maybe that's the plan.
Idea.
That's restocking.
They're just going to send them Luigi's Mansion in Wii U boxes.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
Whatever works.
Whatever works, Nintendo. I will buy one of them just to get that. So, I mean, you know, but E3's next week, like I said, but we're also getting a lot of early E3 news.
Yeah, it's coming pretty quick. There's already trailers out. There's already other stuff out. We got some news today about Metal Gear Solid, the new Metal Gear Solid that's coming up.
I love Metal Gear.
Don't you?
I do.
Do you want to hear some new news?
Depends on what it is. If
it's
going to piss me off, probably not.
It's probably going to.
Damn.
So, brace yourself.
All right.
So, you know David Hayter's not voicing Snake this time. That was known.
Right. Well, I think that it was, David Hayter was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. And they're like, no, he's not going to do it. And then, like, whenever there was an announcement somewhere, David Hayter would put on his Twitter, hey, I'm here in this city. And everyone's like, does that mean David Hayter's going to do it? No.
Well, it is official. David Hayter will not be voicing Snake this time around. But they have announced who will be. Kiefer Sutherland. He's not quite as upset as I thought he was going to be. But I love Kiefer Sutherland. I do. I love 24. He's a great actor. I don't know if his voice fits Snake at all. Maybe I'm wrong. Do you have anything to say?
I think I speak for everyone who's a Metal Gear fan. This is a stupid idea. Because Kiefer Sutherland is a paid Hollywood actor. David Hayter is a paid Hollywood scriptwriter, which means he has more time to be Snake whenever you need him to be Snake. Kiefer Sutherland is also going to ask for more money. Granted, I know that he's getting up there in age. He's not going to be able to do very much. And he's a lot like his dad in the vocals. I think he's an incredible actor. I've watched nearly everything. Yes, I have watched horrible movies that Kiefer Sutherland has been in because Kiefer Sutherland is in it. I watched that horrible Touch show, Kiefer. Horrible show because you were in it. But you're not Big Boss. And I think that that's one thing that they're trying to sell is the fact that, oh, he's playing Big Boss. He's not playing Snake. Well, guess what? David Hayter played Big Boss in Metal Gear Solid 3, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and Metal Gear Solid blah, 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 blah. He's been Snake in every incarnation since they started doing voiceover work. This was a stupid choice.
So they're saying that David Hayter, or not
David
Hayter.
Except for Richard, can't remember his name. It's not Donner, because he directed Superman 2 and 1. Not him. Somebody else did the voice of Big Boss. Spoiler, at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4. So, for those of you that haven't reached that part, that's a surprise.
But, so you said that they're saying that he's going to play Big Boss.
Right.
Does that mean that it is open for someone else to play Snake? Or voice Snake?
Well, see, that's the other thing, too, is that there's no clear definition as to what is going on in this game. Right. Because we have heard that it takes place 5 years after Metal Gear. We've heard that it takes place 5 years after Peace Walker. We've heard so many different variations of what is actually going on. Like, at one point, I think that this was supposed to be Raiden's origin story, is what they were saying.
Honestly, I don't think they know where to take this.
I don't either.
Metal Gear has went from a very straightforward story to this clouded mythos that's spread over several different games.
Well, see, that's the problem. I mean, I want a new Metal Gear game, but, they tied so many loose ends up at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4. And granted, it was a huge info dump. I mean, it was like 45 minutes of just information. You're just like, I have no idea what's happening. I guess this is all okay. And there was like, is it over? And you're like, oh, look at this emotional scene. I'm emotional. More information. I'm emotional again. But I think that I'm anxious because it's Metal Gear, obviously. Right. But I'm very on that thin line of whether or not it's going to be worth it. Honestly.
Well, I mean, I don't think Kiefer Sutherland is going to make or break that for you, honestly.
No, I don't either.
I think he's going to do a good job. Like I said, I love Kiefer Sutherland. He's a great actor.
The first trailer will
undoubtedly
will probably be at E3.
Yeah, that's
or they I mean it is a Metal Gear game.
We probably have about 4 years until this game comes out.
We'll be in the next console generation.
They'll be figuring out whether or not this is going to be on PS4 or PS5 or Xbox One and Xbox something else. So,
I'm very curious. But did you hear about the guy in New Zealand?
I did.
This is completely stupid.
This is ridiculous.
Okay, so he was under house arrest, and for those of you that might not understand what house arrest is, it means you have to stay in your house and you're under 24-hour surveillance.
Makes sense, right?
I mean, that's what I would think. Anyway, this man, he's 19 years old, so I can't really technically call him a man.
It depends.
Yeah, whatever.
Moving on.
He calls the police and says that he wants them to come pick him up so that he can serve the remainder of his sentence, which is a month, in jail.
All right.
You want to know why?
I already know why.
I know.
Let's tell them. It's pretty ridiculous why this guy wants to go to jail.
He ran out of Xbox 360 games to play. Maybe he's been under house arrest for 2 or 3 years. I don't see that. I don't think it extends that long.
I don't think so. It is a different country.
True.
I mean, it is New Zealand. I don't know.
Maybe they do house arrest for
But here's my thing. If I ran out of Xbox games, I mean, how do you run out? They're still there.
Yeah,
you can play them again.
And pretty much everything on the Xbox 360 has multiplayer that you can play.
Well, he may not be able to get on the internet.
Oh, okay,
depending on his crimes, we don't know.
True.
What he did.
True.
But
19 years old, he's probably a hacker. But still, it's like.
Well, I mean,
your choices are go be somebody's bitch in jail or play the Xbox 360 games you have again. I don't care how many times I've played those games. I will drone through it. My house would be clean. I would have started the novel that I've always wanted to write. I would have taught myself how to draw. I mean, a month, a lot of stuff can happen in a month.
Well, here's my thing too.
I would have bathed more because you've done
you
nothing.
Are at home.
I know.
With your Xbox, you can't take something like that to jail with you.
You can't.
So, wouldn't you rather be there in your own environment, watching something, doing something, playing something, than sitting in a jail? I mean, he didn't think this decision through.
Maybe New Zealand.
I don't think he did.
Maybe New Zealand is a bad place to be at home. I mean, I wouldn't think that it is. I mean, they filmed Lord of the Rings there. It's a pretty place.
Right.
So
that's what he got so fed up being in that house that he just had to get out of it because
he had to go on an adventure. He had to go on an adventure.
He needed to go to Mordor. I don't know.
Well, it's horrible though.
But this young idiot made the decision to go to jail instead of staying home and replaying his Xbox games. So if you're ever caught in this position, you may just want to ask yourself what you're going to do ahead of time.
What would CodeFreeks do? We
would play our games again.
Yeah. Clean your house. Take a bath. Shave.
Yeah, that too. Like, that was the only thing he was allowed to do. Like, he was chained to this Xbox.
Yeah, he could only play his Xbox. Once they were out, he had nothing else to do.
He had to sit there.
Read a book.
Anything.
Something. Speaking of idiots.
Yes. I was going to say speaking of Microsoft, with the Xbox, but
well,
either
lately
way,
it's kind of been that way, hasn't it?
They're synonymous at the moment. But Microsoft has came out with some interesting announcements regarding E3 recently. Some announcements that might make you question where exactly they're going to go during this console review.
Bargain bin.
Yeah, it's possible. Microsoft, what are you doing? They've canceled their roundtable, their media roundtable for E3, which they have had every year forever.
It's so that the media, not just video game journalists, but like media all across the board, can sit down and say, "Hey, during your conference, you said this. Can you elaborate?" and all this and that. So
basically, they just want to make their announcements and say, "Those are our announcements. You don't get to ask us anything about it." I mean, that's what it sounds like. And in addition to canceling that, we don't know if they've canceled them all, but they've canceled several one-on-ones.
Like the one-on-one meetings that people set up months prior to E3?
And cited the reason for being scheduling conflicts. Now, if I'm Microsoft, I would think that my schedule would be E3.
Open.
Yeah. We're promoting our game system right now. Right. This is what we're doing.
Right. Well,
Instead,
not only...
someone had a fishing trip. I don't know.
No. I mean, fishing is important. So is golfing. But I don't think it's going to be more important than E3 next week, especially after the giant PR nightmare that the Xbox One has been. And I mean, a lot of people have let the dust settle and come back and said, it's not that bad. Kind of like,
You shouldn't have to say that.
No, you shouldn't.
That's the problem.
You should be able to say, I like that system.
Yeah.
Or,
that's going to be awesome.
I'm excited for that system. It's now people are coming back and be like, that bone sticking out of my skin is not that bad. I don't need direct medical attention on that. So, and this is just another slap in the face for PR that for the Xbox. Not just Xbox One, but Microsoft as a whole. Because obviously they're going to be talking about Xbox 360 at E3. Mm-hmm. And so people are going to have questions, about, because supposedly we heard a rumor that there's going to be a big Xbox 360 announcement, Halo 5. And
rumor.
Yes, it's rumor. Wink. But it's also one of those things that people are going to want to know if Halo 5 is the last Xbox title. People are going to want to know if that is the announcement, if that's going to come on the Xbox One. Why would they be pushing so hard on the Xbox 360 if they had everything else figured out with the Xbox One coming out this holiday? Mm-hmm. Which is even scarier because, it's like, how many fail rates did we have with the Xbox 360? And we've had people come out and say, oh, that's not going to happen this time. How do you know? You don't know. You say it's not going to happen. You would hope.
Exactly. You hope that that's not going to happen.
But if it does, what are you going to do? I mean, how are they going to, coming out right now and saying, we're not going to have a fail rate. We're going to be supporting the Xbox 360. We're going to, reveal these little chunks of stuff. Like, for example, what was revealed and then retracted was that the Xbox Live Arcade games are not going to transfer to the Xbox One. And
no sense.
And neither are your achievements. And all this stuff has been revealed, and Microsoft has said nothing. What did we learn about Microsoft not saying anything? Always on is always on. Mm-hmm. So, and they keep talking about used games. They don't want to give their policies, even though they already did. They did.
No, they did. They did. They gave all that information out, and then they've said that officially none of this has been said.
Yeah. Officially, we never said this
been
on our Twitters or in press releases or said it to a journalist of credibility or anything like that.
The Xbox One is going to have some problems, folks. That's what we're trying to say.
Well, see, and that's the other thing, too. You know, PS4 is going to have problems, too.
Absolutely.
You know,
they all do.
And I'm not being that delusional fan that's on the net right now that's like, oh, PS4 wins. It wins. It's perfect. It's not. Because we still don't know the backwards compatibility for the PS4 100%. We don't know the used game stuff for the PS4 yet. Most of the stuff that we don't know about the Xbox One, we also don't know about the PS4. But, you know, I think that media this generation is going to control a lot more than what any company is ready for.
What are you talking about? The PR of it?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I honestly think that PR is going to handle more about, you know, what we can expect and what we want from the next generation than anything. And I think the perfect example of that is the Wii U. You know, the Wii U, as we talked about, is going to sell no matter what. Mm-hmm. But the Wii U and Nintendo kind of are getting bashed every day.
Yes.
You know? And it was just like, you know, whenever there's a company that closes or whenever there's a bad lawsuit or something like that, like the Activision lawsuit with Infinity Ward creators and stuff like that. Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't remember that? Especially if they were in the industry for very long.
That's my game.
Yeah, that's mine. I did it. Me. Shut up. Activision owned it. You worked on it. Cry Me a River. Anyway, they did Cry Me a River. And they created Respawn Company under EA. And accidentally, maybe it was an accident.
Is it really ever an accident?
I don't think that it is. I think that they reveal things right when they want to. But accidentally, it was leaked that the cover to the next Game Informer magazine is for Titan Falls. And
that's from Respawn.
That's Respawn's new game. You know, that's what they're coming out with. It's a first-person shooter. The cover looks like it's a female blasting some big giant mech or something like that.
Mech blasting goodness.
Yeah. They said there's going to be some mech and ground gameplay mechanics, so I hope it doesn't translate into Transformers gameplay mechanics.
Let's hope not. Well, unless it's the good ones, but...
Well, I mean, Fall of Cybertron and War of Cybertron were both really good games.
Yes.
And they did really well with, you know, what they were trying to do and stuff like that as far as the online gameplay. But I don't think that today's audience is ready for going from a guy this big to a guy this big and fighting that. One, because I don't know everything on it yet, and I assume that there will be a trailer.
I would think if the
cover's
cover's out there, if it's been leaked, then that is in response to something that happened at E3,
right.
or is supposed to
will
have
happen at E3.
Right.
But it actually knocks one off of the 15 titles within the Xbox One launch year. We're down 4 now. They announced Fantasia, The Magic Within, for the Kinect 2.0 a couple of days ago.
See, that's where the bulk of their exclusive titles are going to come in, would be the Kinect 2.0.
Well, they're calling Titanfalls an Xbox One, a console exclusive, because it's going to just the Xbox One and PC right now. That's how it's been announced right now. Right. It's also getting an Xbox 360 version, but here's the thing, it's not going to be developed by Respawn. It's being developed by somebody totally different. Now, is that proof that they still have the Xbox 360 in mind, or is that a proverbial kick in the junk again for the Xbox 360?
I don't know. I find it kind of odd that a former developer is turning publisher. I mean, those guys were...
Well, I mean, it's being published by EA, so...
Right, but then...
And EA puts everything out on everything,
but then who is Respawn in this equation?
They're the developer.
But then who's developing it?
For the Xbox 360?
Oh, so we're just talking about the 360 version.
Right.
Oh,
the 360 version is getting like...
So it's going to get a port then.
The bastard version.
Yeah.
That's what it is, though.
Yeah, they'll get the guys who made the Call of Duty Vita game.
Those guys.
Yeah.
I commend those guys. I don't know.
I blocked it out, I think. Yeah. It was so bad.
Maybe it was Respawn.
No. I don't think it was.
But this game supposedly is coming out in spring of 2014, so anytime during the spring months. And one final thing that I did want to say about this game is that they came out and said that you will survive longer than in Call of Duty, and therefore it makes it more user-friendly.
How?
I don't know.
You survive longer. But isn't that kind of up to you?
Pretty much.
You, the player, determine
suck.
how long you survive.
Right. I mean, unless you like guaranteed a certain amount of time,
which would be stupid.
Right. Or if you're guaranteed, like as your levels progress, like your health. Either way, it sounds stupid.
Yeah, that
really, really stupid.
Well, it is all early. It's all really early stuff. I mean, it's not like it's definitive.
It could be
of how the game. It could be Respawn.
Huh? Get it?
How can a developer named Respawn guarantee consistent life? That doesn't make any sense to me.
But it's welcoming newcomers to the shooting experience. I say throw them in, make them learn, or they're not going to.
That's the way it's been for years. That's the way that it should be. There should be a learning curve.
And why would Respawn be the ones that are like, hey, we want to hold your hand for this? I packed you a lunch.
Oh, they got to do something to get back in there.
I packed you a lunch. It has a pickle.
It has a pickle.
It does. It has a pickle.
So, how do we want to approach this next one? Everyone knows what an iPad is, right?
Yeah.
Do you really? Do you really know what an iPad is?
Well, see, the thing is do you know a real iPad?
Right. iPad.
Get it?
To coin Sony's new handheld
patent. Well,
gaming.
It is important.
Motion.
It is important that we point out that it is just a patent. It is nothing official. This is not the official name. But if they do it, zing!
There's a diagram. It's gonna happen. They've said it's happening. They have officially patented the term
iPad.
iPad. E-Y-E.
iPad.
iPad. Not I, as in the letter I. iPad.
Well,
as in your eyeball.
Okay,
because
I have a question. Okay, we all know that Apple has the lowercase I and the capital P-A-D. Could a company come around and be like, I'm going to spell
capital
it the way it's supposed to be? Or a hyphen?
I would say that they probably own that right as well.
Probably do. But not the iPad.
Apparently not. Apparently they forgot about that one because Sony jumped all over that.
I mean,
Sony jumped all over that one.
And I don't blame them at all.
Because now you can go, they're counting on the Confusion purchase. Oh, they're counting on Grandma going in and saying, I need an iPad. And she's like, Jessica. They're like, which one? And she's like, well, I don't know. So they have a 50-50 shot.
Well, then,
of getting the other iPad.
What if the iPad comes out and, lo and behold, it's cheaper than the iPad?
I won't.
I don't know.
It probably will be.
It probably would be. It could cost $100. It could cost $200. But I doubt it's going to cost $600.
And will it be compatible with PS4
or PS3?
And PS3? Or I would hope. I don't see how that would work.
Hey, it could.
You plug it into the top or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, the compatibility will be a big determining factor of the price, I would imagine.
Well, that too. But either way, either way, it should be very interesting. And I want to see if it actually does come to fruition, what Apple will do in retaliation. Because technically they can't do anything, because there have been several things that Sony has done. iToy, iPlay. Several things.
They have a history of devices.
They like eyes. Maybe, but stupid on Apple's part to not patent that one.
Any spelling of the
of
iPad.
Of
the sound I should have been.
I want Sony to come out with an iPhone.
Or an iPod.
Ooh, an iPod. Where that would be awesome. You hook it up to your PS4 or PS3 and it's got games on it. Think about it.
And it's got an eyeball on it. Looks at you.
I don't know about all that. That would be freaky as hell. Anyway,
they gotta do something.
True. Next week on the podcast, you are going to be in for a treat. We will be doing coverage of the E3 event that happens next week. The ups and downs. And
the roller coaster of emotion that is E3.
Pretty much. And if you thought that the revelation of Kiefer Sutherland playing Big Boss was entertaining, then prepare yourself for next week.
Yeah. E3 is a ridiculous amount of information. The download is going to be huge.
E3 is a cold, cold bitch, and I'm a man with money. So, this has been your host, Matt.
And Josh.
Be sure to check us out more so on Cheat Code Central. This is Code Freaks. See you next week.